Des.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I was so excited to have you on this episode, on this show, to be honest, because I find you such an inspiration to my world and to everything that I'm doing. I've, for the background, if as people are watching, if you didn't know, Des and I, we met at a breathwork certification course.
We did.
And that's the breath work that I facilitate. If you guys have seen in the videos on YouTube, on Instagram, it's a powerful, powerful medicine. So.
And I co-facilitate his.
Yes.
He leads, and I come in and I co-facilitate.
I love that. And it's beautiful. All right. So I'll be honest. I'm just going to ask you this question because it's on my mind. How did you get the black eye?
Oh, goodness. Let's just call it testing and playing with vanity. Right?
Okay.
So just doing some microdermabrasion stuff.
Okay.
And then popped a vessel.
I had to ask,
Yeah.
I actually, that's so funny. When I was facilitating a men's retreat, and I was showing through an exercise somatic rage, somatic release, and we were doing the sacred rage exercise where we were just releasing. And I look in the mirror the next day, and actually my wife Jenny mentioned this. She's like, are you bleeding in your eye? I was like, what are you talking about? So I look, I had popped a blood vessel in my eye because I was going through this exercise. It was super powerful. It was, I was cracking up. So,
it was funny because when I was just the other day, when it happened, and it wasn't about the eyes, and I was looking, it's my dad's 70th birthday, and my sister called to ask if I had old pictures of him, and I'm going through my album, and all of my childhood pictures, I have black eyes in my childhood pictures. And my sister remembered, she's like, oh yeah, she goes, and I remember this so clearly, I was convinced that I could fly. And I would throw myself off of everything, and I couldn't understand why my human body could not, because I was born into this world so soul-like, I could feel energies and all of that. So I was like, I don't know why this is not working, and I cannot fly. And I would, since I was like 2, would just throw myself. So it's just funny how I was watching it and this. And
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so funny when we're kids, like we kind of have like these illusions that we can fly. Or I just sort of always had this thought that I was like this, I always had like thoughts that I was like I guess maybe I had been in wars in past lives, but I was always a warrior. I was always like playing with, like picking up sticks and making it swords, or like playing with guns and these things.
Well, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like we carry from our past life.
Totally.
There absolutely is that.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine, like, children, we're so sensitive to everything, right?
Yes.
Like energy, we're just so sensitive. So it makes a lot of sense that we're like trying to understand the physical body.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't get why.
We're trying to figure out like who we are as little humans.
As humans.
I know. All right, so let's talk about you
Absolutely.
as a human. So you are one of Austin's top real estate agents.
I am.
And I love that about you. So again, I met you at a breathwork certification course, and I was always so curious. I was like, wait, you're a real estate agent. What are you doing at breathwork? So that's a good place to start. Like,
sure.
What brings you into that space as a real estate agent?
Well, let's put it as real estate is actually a tool, right? So I was born into a family, a holistic background. And I say that I was kind of raised in a holistic clinic.
Yeah.
So and I studied the energetics of food and sound frequency, and I was pre-med. I was a candy striper at the age of 12, when 14 was actually the age that they allowed candy strippers. And so medicine and humans were actually my thing before real estate.
I love that.
And real estate grounded me. So I've only had my license. I've been an agent for 3.5 years, really not even that long. But it became, and so before real estate, I was working with human bodies, right? And so I would design recipes specifically for organs. And when people would ask me, and they still ask me all the time, because there's all of these diets, right? There's like keto, like anything people try to label.
Yeah.
And it just never it never worked with me. Like I could not, because humans are so uniquely different.
Yes.
And for me, I would say, well, I eat for my organs because I really see it that way. And I was born into this world very knowing in that aspect of it. So I very much understood that if like I'm obsessed with my liver.
Okay.
So if like the liver is nourished, right?
Yeah.
The liver likes specific herbs, specific foods that
Yes.
keep it really young and healthy.
Yes.
And it's your filtration system. And then there's like the kidneys, there's the lungs, and
Yes.
right. So if I'm giving my lung or my organs what really nourishes them,
Yes.
then my whole system works, right?
Yes.
Like there's all of this food that isn't even necessary and food for energy.
You're right.
And so I eat for my organs. And organs have emotions, right? They're connected to emotions.
Yes, this is true.
In Chinese medicine, you would
Yes.
know this,
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Dave.
Yep.
So it's just, that's my background, right? And I taught contrology before.
What's contrology?
Control, the study of control. But it's very Pilates based,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So it's physical movement. It's being able to control the intrinsic muscles around the bones, around
Yeah.
the structure, the
Yeah.
skeletal system versus
Yeah.
your superficial muscles.
Yes.
So it's really mind and body, right?
Okay.
So it's not like just sitting here and pumping.
Yes.
You're letting it pump before you're actually seeing it pump.
Yeah.
Right? So I taught that before, and I had a ton of clients in the food nourishment section. I studied herbalism, and I've been in real estate now for a little while, and I would tell my mother for a while. I was like, because I integrate my holistic background,
Yeah.
right, into my real estate business.
Yeah.
And through this journey, I kept telling her, I was like, I will go and just get all the certificate. Like not because I wanted to teach it per se. I just love learning. I'm a forever learner.
Yes.
So she finally kind of got sick and tired of me saying it. And she's like, and I said, I would love to go and learn breath work. And I opened Instagram, and the first picture was Jaggers.
Steven Jaggers.
Steven Jaggers of somatic release breathwork. And it was funny because my mom's like, well, why don't you just do it? She's like, you can. And I opened it up, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm listening. And then again, the second picture was again another person who had posted about Steven. So I was like, who is this Steven? And their experience, right, with somatic release breathwork. It was about that. And I was like, that just felt, and I'm a generator in human design, but not only that, my intuition is very, very keen and very sensitive. And so when I feel it, I have fuck yeses, right?
Yes.
I live that way.
Yes.
I don't know how, if it's not a fuck yes, I sit back. Like, and I've always been that way. And so it was just an immediate fuck yes.
How do you know, like, I don't want to cut you off,
Yeah.
but like, how do you know, like, if it's like a fuck yes, like, because I kind of tune in, but if somebody like doesn't really know their own like intuition, how do they tune into that?
Well, intuition is your gut response. It's the very, very first one.
Okay.
Right?
It's perfect.
Very first.
Yeah.
The second thought is not your gut intuition anymore. It is your mind.
Yes.
Right? So when you're learning how to refine it or listen to it or at least acknowledge it, right? Starting with I think people want to make the change so fast and make it work so fast. And so it's like, I'm going to listen to my gut. I have to make that action. Well, first it's like, no, ask yourself. Be like, sit back and be like, what was my first guttural response?
Yeah.
And then play with that and be like, okay, I understand that the second and the third was not. So what was the first? And just like start asking. It's like I play with myself a lot.
Okay.
That sounds really weird, but
yeah, totally. I know what you're saying.
Your first inner body response is your intuition. It's your gut, right? And that's after, I will say, when understanding it's not a trauma response, because there's a trauma response as well that most people think is their gut response, but it's really in their mind. It's a trauma response. So it is really, going through somatic release breath work, it's cleansing, right? It's the energetic system.
Like you were able to like clean yourself out enough to like play with this energy. And I've experienced the same thing of going into my intuition, and we'll come back to how you got into breath work, but I think this is a really important
Yeah.
concept to tune into, because when I get in my own head, I'm dead.
Totally.
I am just dead in the water. I'm not moving forward. Yeah, like I'm stuck. I was in my head for so many years, and could it have been a traumatic, response or trauma response? Absolutely. That freeze response, and then I would get a certain result in my life, which generally was a cash flow situation
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And then I would like freak out. I'd be like, I need to go do things and sell, and like I would like hyper sell everything I was, but it would come from lack, and it would like feel so tense. And
other
so,
people can receive it that way.
And they feel it, right? They feel it. And so when I came from unconsciousness to consciousness, I basically lost my business, because all of those people that I was selling from lack mentality were not aligned anymore, and all of them went away. And then I was like sitting there like, what do I do? Because I was lost. But I was no longer a vibrational match to the people.
You were
that
recalibrating.
Were coming. Exactly, I was recalibrating.
Yeah.
And so tuning that, it's like a tuning fork, right? Tuning into your own inner knowing, inner guidance, inner wisdom, higher self. That's what I call your unbreakable self.
Totally.
Right?
I mean, for me, I'm very, very clear, right? So many people separate the consciousness and spirituality from even the physical body, right?
Yes.
You need one. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the body, and some people will be like, well, you could be super spiritual or whatever, but if you're putting things into your body that are not good for it, then you are basically communicating to your higher self or to your spiritual side, to your soul. I'm not worthy.
Yes.
You're not worthy.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so there is a reason why your body is your temple.
Yes.
Right? So it is a simple communication, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily, I mean, it is about the nutrients and the nourishment, but there's so much more depthness to the choice of actually feeding your body what it actually needs and what is good for it to have you even have more knowing. Like your sensitivity just becomes so much more refined. Right? Because you're honoring each other. And so then the cleaner you get and the more nourished you get in your physical body, the more you tap in. So then you're doing this. You know?
Yeah. And the way I like to think about it is consciousness, through neuroscience, we've discovered that consciousness is not organic to the human brain, meaning it doesn't come from the human brain, it comes from somewhere else. And that's the great question, is where does it come from? And the example I like to give, and actually, perfect example, we're speaking into a microphone, which is going through wires, which is going into a phone. Well, the energy that is us is coming through us, and we're expressing it through that. So it's like the energy, like the sound doesn't live inside the microphone. It's not inside the microphone. It's coming through this. This is a conduit, just like our physical vessel is a conduit for consciousness. Right. And the more we take care of our physical vessel, things like certain nutrition, movement, dynamics, attunement, alignment, I like to call it authentic expression, and allowing ourselves to get deeper into our vessel, allowing ourselves to clear, then we become more aligned with, if we want to call it, higher vibrations. So just like this microphone can pick up on vibrations, and then that information goes into, let's say a camera, and then you're watching on the other side, right? And you're watching from a completely different vantage point screen, right? It doesn't live. It's like that information is not living inside of your screen. It's just a conduit. It's just literally just a series of vessels.
Totally.
And that's actually how, if you think about vibration, as you and I speak, we can tell a story. We can give our vibration to the world, what we feel, what we are experiencing, and then other people can pick up on that.
Totally.
And you can tell a story through light, through sound, through painting, through art, through dance, and that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and there's truth. In vibration, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's how the information is carried.
It's carried. Yeah, there's that frequency, right? So many people think that it can come from here. When you are a conduit, right, of truth goes like, and it lands. Right? Another thing that I do definitely, when people always say, what do you mean you're always clearing and clearing and clearing? I'm clearing my nervous system, my energetic system. I do it I do what I do specifically every 2 weeks. I go to my Taoist acupuncturist first, right? And literally we clear my nervous system. He'll shut me off if I need to be shut off, turn me back on. But it's consistency. It's not this just because no matter what, we're living in this world, right? Like even being in front of screens or just walking around, there's toxins as much as like, unless you're living in the forest and growing your own food, right? It's constant. You need to be constantly clearing.
Yes.
Then there's your skeletal system, right? There's adjusting. Like it's understanding the full layers, right, of the body, and then the lymphatic system. So like I get so turned on and by just consistently clearing, and understanding that through that I become this just constant energetic flow, and it feels so good.
I think that's actually really important to note too, because when you regulate your nervous system, going back to somatic release breath work, then you become you're more sensitive.
Totally.
You're able to recognize, okay, is this my ego talking now? Is this my shadow? And is this truth? Is this not truth? Do I need to go in this direction? You actually become more decisive.
That goes back to the intuition.
Yeah,
yes.
and it shows up. It shows up in life. And let's go back to actually, kind of, this is a good segue because we're talking about regulating your nervous system and then how you became successful, obviously, in real estate here in Austin. And, you got into somatic release breath work. You knew it was a fuck yes. It's amazing. That's actually, it's so funny. That was exactly how I got into it as well. I had an intuitive journaling session. And I was like, all right, what's my next step? And it was like, it just came out, somatic breathwork release. And then I did some Google searching, and I was like, and then a friend of ours, Danny, who was a dear friend of mine at the time, where she still is, obviously, but she was like, yeah, I'm going to go to this course. I was like, okay, there's note.
Yeah.
And I signed up actually for 3 months, like, ahead, and Steven, the guy that was facilitating and providing this work, he's like, no, you signed up for this month. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So
you were meant.
So I was meant to be there, and I met you,
I know.
and I met some other incredible people,
it was good.
And it's like I can tell now, like, yeah, I was supposed to be at that event. The way I was, just the way everything has played out is so amazing. So, how do you take then the holistic approach, your holistic lifestyle, and apply it to vocation and what you do?
Yeah, so it's because it is my lifestyle. I know no other way.
Yeah.
Right? And how I've integrated it into my real estate life, my real estate business. Real estate is so masculine, or at least the old way of doing things. It's like a very, like, they always would call it, I mean, there's a reason why it was calling, like, it's the shark eat shark, or like it's that world. And I was like, I'm always like, well, I'm the dolphin, and like the whole reason for that being is that it just I didn't feel, the energy was so low, right? The vibrations were so low. It was so money driven.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, truly love humans. Like, they fascinate me on just every level of, at the grocery store, like anywhere I go, smile at somebody, right? Like, feel it first. Don't just go around and smile at people. I mean, sure, do that because it'll change your vibration, right? After a while. Yeah. But like the whole thing about somatic, right, is that if it's, you feel it in your body, then it vibrates, period, right? And that's what changes things. And so for me, it's my, the clearing in this lifestyle and taking it into my business. Like, if there was really stressful situations, which there are in real estate, sometimes and a lot of times I'll guide my people through breath work, and it's not like a whole somatic release breath work, but it is the simple notion of understanding that our breath is the number one. It calms the nervous system. It's the best thing that calms our nervous system.
Absolutely.
Right? And so in those very, very high intensity moments, which is daily, honestly, and especially in our market, being able to show up for your people, not in that one low vibration, right? In the fight, like win-win, like or we're gonna win, right? Because I think that there's a lot of that in my industry. It's like one person wins, right?
Yes.
Where I actually very much can see it from the macro, the above area, and be like, no, there is an actual way for both people to win.
Yes.
And when we understand and play the energy that way, I have closed. There's only been one house that I have not closed, and that was because we pulled out. And closed happily, right? And like all parties were just like, that was really a good experience.
It's amazing.
And so it's all about experiences, right? Our whole entire existence is about what we are experiencing. And so if you're able to provide a more peaceful experience and joyful experience and educated experience, or whatever it is, even just lighthearted experience, well, things are going to work.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because nobody's just like holding on to scarcity. Nobody's like, and so it's become just really fun for me. I mean, I could tell you too, like so many of my clients have turned to be like my best friends. And now we're hosting events, like women's circles, breathwork events at their homes. And they've been the ones who are like, I would love to learn more. Like, yes, please use my home. And I'm like, amazing, you know? So it's been really cool.
There's so much there. You touch on so many amazing points. Like the first point, which is you show up as your best self for your clients. Like every day you're doing work. And I have a question on that here in a second. But the other thing that I want to make note of, and it was like this, I love these like little like boom, like drops, like knowledge bombs or like wisdom bombs. Everything is an experience. Even buying and selling a home, it's just an experience. Like, what experience do you want? Like, we're at a coffee shop right now. It's like, what kind of experience are we receiving from this coffee shop? We tried to do a different coffee shop, and I had a very different experience from the barista. She was not as happy with her life. So I was like, why don't we go to a different place? You know, like, and here we are. So ultimately,
I think people with that, just on that note, I think to be able to be like, what do you mean experience, right? We are raised to be so attached, right? We're attached to an outcome that we think it needs to be. So instead of actually living in this moment, in the experience, you're not in it, right? So you're attached to what you think it's going to look like. That all of this, and it never happens that way. And then it especially does not happen that way, right? Because you're not actually enjoying the experience. If you're enjoying the experience, it cannot go wrong. Period.
Like, period. End of story.
End of story.
Right. Like, that's the thing is, and here's the thing is, you have to show up to the experience with almost like with an intention, actually not almost like,
always.
You must show up with an intention in mind, because you could show up to like a really tough event. Let's say it's a funeral, and you could be there in your fullest self and just say, I am here to serve and give love to others. And you make sure that other people experience love, and you're bringing that to the experience. And now all of a sudden people get a little bit lighthearted, and maybe there's some laughter involved.
Well, yeah, and there's also, when you show up authentically, it doesn't always have to be, I need to come in with joy or changing somebody's experience. It can, a situation like that can be really painful, right? So showing up and in full, even in my business, when I say I show up for I show up authentically. If I am working because I work a lot, but I love what I do, right? So it's really not work. But I have gotten myself to places where I feel almost burnt out or something. I communicate that to my people, right? So I have an honest relationship with my people at all times, because then that builds trust. And not only that, I'll be like, I need to check out for 2 days, guys, because I need to show up fully for myself, and that's also showing up fully. Right? It's showing and gives them permission to also show up for me.
Ooh.
Right? And then it becomes like, I see myself as a guide in real estate.
Yes.
It isn't just me doing these things.
Yeah.
We're actually doing them together. And so it becomes this really cool collaborative experience
Yes.
of a relationship. And this is why I think all of my transactions or my clients or all of us become really dear friends, because we are really just honest.
So I want to like, again, put a little note in that, because what you just described is, there's 2 points. One, again, and we touched on this, you show up, right? You are doing the work, whether it's daily routines, weekly routines, monthly routines, whatever. You're doing the work to show up for your clients because you're in service. And what I love about what you're bringing to the table, especially in real estate and sales, like you were mentioning, it's cutthroat. It's almost like a warrior mentality of like, I'm going to go get that house so that you don't get that house, so that I win, so that I have the money, right? Well, the social norms are kind of breaking, and it's almost like you've found your authentic self, and you're bringing this holism to real estate as you're just bringing it to the entire industry in Austin, which is, I would say, you probably know, is it the largest or fastest growing city
in the nation?
In the nation, right?
Sure.
So it's like the fastest growing, and so that means that there's a lot of real estate agents. There's
we have about almost 15,000. We for sure have 14,000. So I don't know how many more on top of that daily.
I mean,
but
you can't spit in Austin without hitting a real
Yeah.
estate agent. You know,
Yeah.
like they're everywhere, right?
We are.
And I've met so many at so many different business networking events and all these things. So. But the point is, you're bringing something really valuable, and it is a feminine flow. It's a feminine cooperation. It's creating community, and it's creating an entire experience around the buying and selling process where, like you have breath work, or you have just like some amazing events, women's circles, like you were mentioning. And it's as if like, oh, I bought this house, but now it's like
a whole other thing.
It's like a whole other experience.
And I love and then in that, it's connecting my clients who are friends where I'm like, oh my God, they need to meet because they can do something magical and amazing. Or, it's this human journey,
I love that.
It's sweet, and when we really understand it that way, then we can create it that way.
Yes.
And it's not about me, right? It's about everything. And so yeah, it's a joy.
I love that. And if we're gonna do like a quick action step, right? Like if you're listening and you're in any industry, literally doesn't matter any industry. There's always industry norms, right? If you think about real estate, it's maybe, you go and do some showings and then like you put up the sale or whatever, it's like, there's a certain standard by how things are run, but what you're creating is an entire different experience. So in whatever industry you're in, consider like draw on a piece of paper, on the left side, all the standard norms. And if you had to like create something completely different, totally out of the box, down the center on the left side, you draw out like you write out all the standard norms of your industry, whatever it is. Could be dentistry, could be chiropractic, could be podcasting. It doesn't matter what it is. Draw out what could be completely different and create an entire new experience around that.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think even that is still working with the mind too, a little bit, right?
Okay.
So when we say I show up for my clients, what I'm really doing is I'm showing up for myself, right? So I am creating, what I'm creating is truly authentic to me because it's how I operate, right? I'm not trying to do it any other way. I'm not trying to, even when I first got into real estate, I did not go and look at how other top realtors were doing things. Yes, I have mentors. Absolutely. I have incredible mentors. But my life, our day is consistent of work, right? Like most of our day is a lot of work, what we're doing. And so if I'm not showing up for myself and making it the way that fun for me and however it works, then I'm not showing up for myself and I'm not showing up for others. I'm trying to create something outside of me, right? And so it takes all of these, like, it just takes diving into yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The clearing, diving into yourself, and then showing up whatever that looks like. It will be.
So one of the main attributes that I teach in my Circle of Kings program is authentic expression. Now, I have the way that I kind of tune in, but how do you know if you're in your authentic expression, like you're mentioning?
Your body. Your body responds. Right?
Yeah.
And
it's like that fuck yes.
Yeah, there's the fuck yes, but there's also I'm tired. There's also I'm agitated. There's also I'm stressed. There's also all of these, not that you're not going to be feeling some pressure, right?
Yeah.
But your body, like, how do you know? It's listening, right? It's like, you just don't, it's the gut response again, right? And then we try to overanalyze things. The second you overanalyze anything, you're not an authentic expression.
So I'll give you an example because I think this is poignant. I have a sick kid at home and another baby at home that just, like, he doesn't go to school, so he's at home, right? So I was doing dad duties this morning and I'm waiting on my wife to come home, and I was thinking about this conversation, about setting this up, about where are we gonna go, about, and I'm like holding a puke bucket literally while texting you for my son, which is so, right? This is like dad life. And I was feeling stressed. I'll be honest. I was feeling like, okay, is it like,
I want it to be good,
right? We want it to be good, right? So how do I know if I'm tuning in? Because I have a couple ways that I like to, but how do I know if I'm tuning in, if it's like, if I'm being authentic and saying, nope, this is, like I need to take a step back, or if, hey, these are just roadblocks. Let's just pivot.
I would, the word I'm trying to find, next time, right? And
Yeah.
I don't want to say challenge, but I'm gifting this is like, communicate that with me.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If there is another person involved or people involved,
Yes.
right? You don't have to communicate everything,
Yes.
right? But you were in a moment, and in that moment, you were like, I don't know if that could have been communicated to me. There's like that compassion I have, and I'll be like, I got this.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or if you were like, you could sit back and breathe.
Yeah.
Breath work.
Right.
Just sitting and breathing relaxes the nervous system, relaxes the vagus nerve, all of it, and then you'll feel into what is right for you, right? And if you feel comfortable enough, you can communicate that with the other person. Then it becomes dynamic, right? Then it's like, hey, we'll figure it out.
I actually really love that, because even in my mind, I came up with just a different way. There's top down and then there's bottom up, right? Like, so bottom up would be breath. That'd be doing some somatic release breath, or just breathing, just some coherence breathing. Top down is altering the perspective. For instance, what was coming up for me at the time was I was witnessing my own personal want and desire from a situation, and I said, well, if I didn't have this want, and I was just going to get together with a friend, and we were just going to have a conversation over coffee, how would that go? Like, I would feel completely relaxed. Well, now I can go into that experience with that. And so for me, getting into my authentic expression was simply through that.
So you found your attachment.
Yes.
You found what you were attaching
Exactly.
to.
And then I was able to step outside of it, detach from it, and for me, and in my coaching program, I actually teach this on how to release this and actually transmute it from something negative to something positive, surrender to that, and then all of a sudden you have a completely different
experience.
Paradigm. Yeah, totally different experience, which then now it's like a paradigm shift. And when you have a paradigm shift, now you become a conduit. It's like your vessel, right? Your microphone can now pick up on new kind of tones, new vibrations.
You were legit neurohacking, biohacking, soul hacking in that moment by doing that for yourself.
Yes.
Then you are able to sit back and create what comes next. You gave yourself the space
Yes.
to create what comes next.
The simplest way to do that too is completely detached from whatever outcome is going to come.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Like
That's it.
that has
And then feel it.
exactly that lesson. I've like heard that lesson. Like you might be hearing that lesson right now. You might be thinking, okay, well,
How do you do it?
How do you do it? How do you detach? I had to get my face smashed in so many different ways to finally realize, like I'm done. Like working. I'm done trying to do it all. I'm done trying to be the guy that.
There's a saying that I really love, and it just is out there, and it says, full engagement, less attachment, right? Like I want no attachments and full engagement. And when we're fully engaged in the moment, right, you're not attaching to, and because even attaching is another form of manipulation, right? I mean, although everything there is a form of manipulation happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, full engagement. And when it's like, okay, today, just today, I want to be so present and fully engaged, it changes everything.
It really does, because what you're doing is you're going from unconscious, because unconscious
to super conscious.
Right, to super conscious. And you kind of almost like, to become a conscious human, right? If I'm speaking to men, right? Like to become a conscious man, you have to become aware of the things that, like your attachments. Like, and the only way you'll know is like when you get your face smashed in. It's the best analogy I can give you is like when you lose your business or you lose your relationship or just something goes awry, like you get really triggered.
Yeah.
Like somebody cuts you off or somebody makes you wear a mask, like when you don't feel like you need to wear a mask. That was something for me because I value freedom. I don't know, that's just my thing. So when that happens, like, and you recognize, oh, like you're triggered. I was like, what am I triggered about? And I actually did some work on the way over here and recognized, oh, dude, like there's a little boy in me that's scared and he doesn't want to be scared and he's ashamed of his fear. And then it was like, oh, now it's a whole nother game. Like I have shame around being afraid and showing fear, because when I see people wearing masks, I see them as being afraid. They are afraid of the what ifs in life rather than
compassion.
Yeah, right. So then that allows me to sit with more compastion. Take a breath, right?
Yeah.
Take a breath. Yeah. So it was such an interesting thing because I didn't have compassion. I was like, wait, this isn't my normal state. And here's the thing too, is like, and you and I do a lot of similar practices, and I want to dive into your individual practices. But because I've done a lot of practices to clear my vessel, to tune into higher vibrations, if you want to call it, like not if you want to call it, that's what it is. It's literally like tuning into higher frequencies and emotions. I'm able to notice when I'm not in compassion. And in that moment, I was in the opposite of compassion. And instead of is just allowing this person's fear to just be as it is, I kind of was like, I don't want to do business with you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so I was a little bit of a dick. I was.
And then here's another opportunity for you to have self-compassion.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because then the next time you're approached with that same situation or similar, it's a memory response, right? Because you've allowed the peace. You're not doing this. Your nervous system isn't doing this to hold it.
Yes.
Your self-compassion allows, and then you'll understand it better the next time, and you're like, okay, I need self-compassion.
That is embodiment. That is truly what integration and embodiment really is.
It's so fun.
It's so much fun. I love this stuff.
It's so fun.
I love this stuff.
Yeah, something you said earlier, because you do work with men, and men do like some form of like to-dos or how to get there or a path, right? Yeah. So something that really, really changed my world, I guess, a while ago, and I created it for myself. Like everything I do, I create for myself since I was really young. Like I love doing it, and there was a lot of tragedy that had happened, and it was like in my rock bottom. It felt like my place of rock bottom. Everybody's is so different, right?
Yes,
and I was like, okay, how I realized that when we looked ahead, too far ahead, it's so debilitating, right? Even a week ahead, like it is debilitating because it's like, oh my God, I have all of these things to do because I need to create this business and I need it to be successful and I need 5 clients, and those 5 clients that you want, you're not focusing on the one client that you want. Like my business got very successful because when I say I show up, I'm like, I show up right here with my one person.
You're there.
Right? I'm there.
Yes.
And that's all that means.
You're not
showing
you're
up
not
means
like on the phone.
Yeah, well, showing up doesn't mean like I have to have all this energy, right? Showing up just means I'm showing up and I'm truly genuinely in the moment with my person in that time. But to go back to how you can get more intuitive, or the word conscious is so it's very overused in our society these days. And it's not a bad thing. It's such a beautiful word, right? But it's everywhere. And it's just like now people can relate it to like when the word healthy became everywhere. It like kind of lost its meaning, its weight. Its consciousness is also in that kind of realm. And so all that means, conscious just means, is like when I say super conscious, literally conscious just means I'm here. I'm seeing, I'm present. I have no blinders. Right? That's all it means. And so how do you do that? Yeah, present. That's all it really, really, truly means, right? Is like I am in this moment looking at it, like feeling it, being in it. That is conscious. Okay? So like how do you get to a place where all of a sudden your whole life is? Right? Like all of a sudden your whole day is. So choices.
Okay.
Choices, right? It's where you begin. That's like the starting point, because I think in the journey it takes us other places. Right? But like at the very, very beginning, if somebody's like, how do I even start? How do I even get there? Like it is one choice at a time.
So you're showing up, right, in a sense. I like to use the word claim. Right? What are you claiming? Because like when you're becoming a conscious human and you're going from unconscious to conscious, and the reason you're not, we'll call it conscious, like it's such a funny word, but the reason is it's like you're having some anxiety, you're having some depression, you're like things are going awry and you're getting triggered, you're kind of pissed off, you might not be.
And that's okay, that's great.
It's a totally okay.
Totally
okay. So as you come into consciousness, meaning you're simply aware of the reasons that you might be upset, or the things that, or maybe the reason you're not getting the results you want in your work, in your relationships, in your finances, whatever, you're coming online and you have to see, it's like you have to see the shit, right? Like you're digging, you're digging a new garden to sow some seeds or plant some seeds, but you recognize that there's a bunch of uranium underneath that dirt, and it's like radioactive, and you got to get rid of it, and you got to deal with it, and you got to see it, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, and sometimes that needs professional help, right? Sometimes that needs a coach, right?
Totally.
And I love,
because you're attached.
Yes, you're attached.
You're so attached,
and that's what that radiate. Yeah, it's like it's just destroying you from the inside out. So choice, I love that. You have to choose. It's like, what are you choosing, even in this moment, even in watching this or listening to this podcast, right? What are you choosing? What is your intention as you're sitting with this? Maybe you're driving, maybe you're sitting at out at a coffee shop, listening. What are you choosing in this moment? That's powerful.
It's so powerful. Like there is this, how I did it for myself, because I'm in real estate, right? It came so clear, and I was like, stack your choices like you stack the bricks of building your dream home, right? So when you're building your dream home, you're not going to choose bricks that are cracked, that are porous. You are going to, of your dream home, right? You are going to choose solid, good bricks, right? And to build your dream home, it doesn't take 50 bricks.
Right.
It takes hundreds of thousands of bricks.
Yes.
Well, I mean, depending on how big your dream home is, but it takes a lot of bricks, right? And so understanding that as soon as we open our eyes, we're presented with choices. Our entire existence and day is choices. That's all it is.
Yes.
Right? And so it's about the choice, sure, but it's more so about the awareness of you making a choice that you learn to trust yourself, right? So you open your eyes and you can be like, okay, I have 2 choices. And if you have like 6 choices, then you need to go back down to 2 choices because you have a lot of confusion.
Yes.
But go to 2 choices. And it's like, I can drink my water with my lemon because I know that my body's been detoxifying, flush my system, right? And I know this is good for me. My second choice could be I can have the coffee first thing, although I know that it shoots adrenals, that
Yes.
it can give me a headache,
Yes.
all of these things. Well, choose the choice that aligns with your vision. Okay, choose this choice. Next choice, brush my teeth. And I was like, okay, brush my teeth. Okay, well, I'm going to brush it with my left side because, brain function, that's a choice. Got a choice. Made it. Next choice. What am I going to eat? Choose. Choose the choice that aligns with your vision. Everything, and just do it in one day. One day, everything that you were presented with, make sure that you are choosing, that you're not just kind of just floating and being like taken by life. That's what I call it.
Yes.
You're the one with your hands on the wheel. Life is in the passenger seat.
Yes.
Right? And so all of a sudden, within 2 days, you have shifted your entire world, right? Because now your vibration, you're choosing, you're showing up.
Yes.
I'm showing up. You are showing up in that moment. You've probably shown up more in 2 days than you have in a year.
That
Vibrationally.
totally. You know what's really interesting about that is I do that innately.
Yeah.
You do that
Innately, yeah.
Innately. I don't know that a lot of people do that.
Most people don't. They're driven by life, because they believe also there's the saying that it's like, oh, that's your destiny, right? Or whatever's going to happen is going to happen. You're like, so you're basically saying, I don't have anything to do with this.
Yes.
When, in fact, you're like, okay, you could live your life that way.
Yes.
Because things will happen.
Yes.
But when are you choosing them?
Right.
Because here's the thing. If you're going to choose the choice that aligns with your vision, you're presented with 2 new choices. You're presented with these 2 new choices that you would not be presented with if I chose the coffee. If I chose the coffee, I need to figure out the choices that I have now is how do I get back to feeling better?
Yeah.
I can have the coffee after my water and my food for me.
Yeah.
Right? But if I choose this choice, guess what? What is going to be my next 2 choices? They're better, so it's domino effect.
So let me ask you this. How do you know what your vision is, right? And do you kind of take an inventory of every area of life? So for instance, you were talking about coffee. Well, that could show up in the sense of like, well, I want to feel vital and energized. And if I have 1 cup, then I feel vital and energized. But then if I have multiple cups, then I'm not, then I'm strung out, I'm a little wiry. And then that's going to show up in my work, or that's going to show
And your
up
whole day.
in my whole day, my relationship,
Your whole
right?
day.
Everything. So how do you choose your vision? Because for me, and this is where I was like at, and I know a lot of guys are in this place in their life, which is like they're seeking a mission, right? It's like this innate part of men, of masculinity, is to dive into a mission or a calling or a purpose. Because like there's a craving of in the work, we are just innately driven by work, and to go club the animal on the head, bring it home and put it on the table, and like we want to get patted on the head and like be given like the gratitude and the appreciation. It just like lights us up. We're like we're like good puppy dogs. That's all we are. Like, we just want to bring home the animal to the feminine.
That's so sweet.
I know, it's so sweet, right? Like, it's like, oh, I did it, I did it, right? So
and
how
you just want to love on you.
I know, right? I know. And it's like, yes, I did. Yes, awesome.
Can you imagine a whole life like that?
I know, right?
And then the woman just simple. Like loves and appreciates, and he's like, yes, I could do it again.
I could do it again. There's absolute like
truth to that.
And in the polarity section that I teach, that we talk about that, because that's powerful.
Yeah.
We could talk about that too, but I'm like, we're going to the next podcast.
Okay.
Right?
The vision.
The vision. Let's go on to the vision. How do you choose for you? How do you know that that's right?
Yeah. So for me, it's I don't ask myself what is my vision. It's how do I want to feel? Right?
Okay.
So because as soon as I try to put words or put it somewhere, that's how for me, it's like, okay, how how do I want to feel? And how do I want to feel when I'm 80, 90, right? And so it's following that. And the vision comes. Here's the other thing. It's, for me, a lot of these things that have come to me are I feel as a responsibility, but I never saw them coming.
Yeah.
I never did. And if I had my eyes set on a specific vision, would I have accepted these things? Would I have, you know what I mean? Like, would they actually be landing in my plate? Probably not.
Right.
Right? Because I'm trying to say it's going to have to look this way. Right? Instead of I'm attached to something. And for me, it's like, does it feel aligned with me? Does it feel like it's expansive for me? Does it feel like there's love there? Because that's what feels good to me.
Yeah.
Right? So everybody's different. Like, some people are wired as warriors.
Yes.
Right? I'm a love warrior. I'm a different kind of warrior. And so for me, I love love so much. But because I love humans so much. And so if I can see that if somebody is presenting me with an opportunity and I'm like, let me feel into it. If it feels like I can put love and I can make that expansive and it feels, I'm like, yes. If it doesn't, I say no. That's been the most fun part recently too, is saying no. Not because I don't love somebody or because I don't love what they're doing, or it's simply because I'm honoring myself.
Yes.
Right? Like, because I'm like, it's for somebody else.
Yes. Because you're aligned with what your vision is, and now you're able to set into motion a clear boundary.
Totally.
And
also a clear,
powerful.
Yeah, the boundary, but also which by doing a boundary, guess what it does? It continues to keep you open to have the time, right, to put your energy of what continues to light you up. Imagine if everybody was lit up all the time, what our world would be like.
There's a quote that I read. I remember this a long time ago, and it stuck out of me. Don't do, or do what sets you on fire, because what the world needs is more people on fire. Yes. And I remember that, and I remember thinking, like, this, like what you just said is absolutely what we all need.
Yeah, because most people are driven by fear.
Yes, correct.
Without even knowing that. They're not even conscious. They're driven by fear.
And that's what we were talking about with the mask. And it's like, and you got to have compassion with yourself. You got to recognize, okay, I'm driven by fear. Maybe I don't have all the information I need, or I'm looking to create a sense of stability, or a sense of connection, or a sense of whatever. And if you recognize your core driver, because we all have like a core driver, when you recognize what that is, there's a lot of shame in that, because if you're the one that like goes against that, now all of a sudden you become aware, you become much more conscious of your shadow.
Our shadow is so beautiful.
So beautiful. It really gives us opportunity. It's like
to love it.
It does. Yeah. It creates the drama of life, and it creates the, that which you are not, so you can remember who you are, which is a whole nother
A good example, I think, also of the driven by fear part, because like the mask stuff and everything, that is a very current situation, but something that I think everybody can relate to, really on the same level, is, if you have a tiff with a friend or a partner, right, there's something, and they need to talk.
Yes.
Right? And you're like, oh my God, they said I need to talk. Right? And then they need to meet at like a coffee shop or something. And a lot of the times there's anxiety, right, in your individual body. And you're people either want to show up to be like, well, this is what you did, or this is how I'm feeling, yada, 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 right? Understanding that people are driven by fear, right? Everybody's driven by fear. Yes. So it's like, well, what are they afraid of? When you ask yourself, okay, what am I afraid of? Most of the time it's, oh, I don't want to break up, or, they need their business to succeed, and they're afraid that it's not going to. Yeah. Okay, I can relate to that, so I'm going to show up that way, in the way of being like, okay, you don't have to be afraid because I love you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like, that's what the driven by fear is just understanding everything is out there. We're driven by not wanting something to happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what it is. It's like, I want to succeed so that I'm not, I don't know, poor or hungry or lacking love or whatever the stories are.
Socially,
it's all
sort of
stories,
distant. Yes.
right? And so it's just like understanding that everybody is operating that way. Then you have so much more self-compassion. Then you can actually change the situation.
Yes, I love that. And to recognize too in yourself when you are being driven by fear.
Totally.
And that comes back to what you were describing, which is choices, right? Like, so
breath work.
Talk about, back to breath work, full circle,
back to breath
clearing the vessel.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue. Is actually, this came up for me the other day, which is around coffee. I like to have generally 1, maybe 2 cups in a day, and I already had 2 cups in a day, and I remember thinking, like, do I want a third? You know, like, do I really want to go after it and just have a third cup of coffee? You know, like I'm being naughty or something. And it was that moment. It was like this. I did what you just described, which is this in line with my vision? Is this going to allow me to show up as a better version of myself, or am I just sort of going after this because I like the high of it?
Yeah.
And I recognized that. I was like, oh, I'm just going after it because I like the high of it. I like the high of caffeine, and I'm like a high guy, like a high energy guy. And I was like, oh, well, now I don't need the coffee. And in fact, we came to a coffee shop and I didn't buy a coffee, which I was like,
did you feel deprived?
I sat with myself for a second. I was like, do I want a coffee? Do I not want it? And it was just like this little voice was like, get a decaf, or did you get something that's non-caffeinated?
Yeah.
And so,
well, at least you honored yourself too, right?
Right.
Like the choices. Like, I was having this conversation with my sister and somebody else, and it's like, they teach us ever since we're really young. It's always about trust your parents, trust your teacher, trust the cops, trust your doctor, trust everybody else outside of yourself.
Yes.
Right. So it's like, how do we learn to trust ourselves?
Yes.
Choices.
Yes.
Right. So the more choices that you make that align with your vision, that make or help you with your day-to-day life, the more you start to make those, the more you start to trust yourself. That when you have those situations, right? We're human, whatever. We're gonna, all of a sudden, you know how to feel it somatically.
Yes.
That like, no, I don't want that, and then it goes away. Right? It's the knowing. It's like, it's when you take it out of here and you put it into here. Do I really want that coffee or that third? Right? And when you feel the no.
So all of that, I love all of that, and I think that reiterates sort of the conversation. And what I want to do right now is just kind of summarize, because you have given us so many wisdom bombs, so many good points. So the main things that I pick up, you are a highly successful woman, and what you do is you show up every day. You show up, and the way you show up is you clear yourself, right? You get yourself into alignment. You do work outside of work, right? And the work is on the self. It could be acupuncture.
Because I love it.
Yes.
Not because I love it. And you learn to love it when it feels good.
Yes.
Your body is craving it. Humans' bodies are craving it.
Yeah, it's like we're craving like a clearing.
Yes. And the more you do, the more your body's like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
And the more you do, it's like, no, I'm not just thinking, let me show up for you.
Yes.
And that's fun.
And then from there you can have clarity, like through the feeling of knowing what is a positive choice, right? What is going
100%.
in alignment with my vision?
Yeah.
Am I expressing myself authentically in that? Is the idea of the entire, like, let's say your career or your relationships or your finances, is that being expressed authentically as a macro? And then is each decision being expressed authentically? Because you can feel that.
Totally.
And then you can set up clear boundaries.
Yes.
Meaning like, hey, I'm super strung out. I need a day. You tell your people, because you're not going to show up as your best self. You're not trying to push. You're not trying to, you're not attached to the outcome of the sale of the house. You're just allowing yourself just to be and honoring that And I think honoring yourself is
that's why we're here.
Such a valuable lesson in itself. And the last thing I would add is that you create experience around what you do. It's more than just a transaction. It's more than just, hey, give me this and I'll give you that. It's tuning in with somebody. It's allowing them to feel like they can express through their buying process or their selling process, because frankly, buying a house can be stressful.
Totally.
Especially in a market where the inventory is low and people are like, diving on top of each other, fighting, right? You got to go 20% over asking price. All of a sudden, it's nuts in some areas. So the point is, you have such a beautiful, beautiful practice. We got a couple minutes. I'll go.
I do. I want to say something along those terms, because it can seem overwhelming, right? I promise it this way, is that being that conscious of every single choice only lasts a certain amount of time.
Yes.
Because then you're in flow after that. Does that make sense? So it's not this it's like, whoa, that's a lot of work every single day.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no, you get yourself to the place where it's now natural. And now it becomes just the way you operate.
Yeah, it's sort of like driving, right?
It's like driving.
When you first, you're like, you gotta do this and do that and hit this.
You're training yourself.
You're training yourself.
Yes,
and then it becomes
you're aligning
second nature.
yourself to be able to super fast. Then it becomes really fast, and right? So the work is there, but it's not like super hard and all the time.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll wrap it up here. I'm going to have you back on because it's powerful, and maybe we can go through a more step progression of your day. And I think that'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
So if somebody is moving to Austin or somebody is in the Austin market and they want to reach out to you as their real estate agent, how do they reach out?
You can, my Instagram is Good Days in Austin, because you're going to have good days in Austin.
Yes.
And then my email, I work at Compass. My brokerage is through Compass.
Okay.
So I think the easiest way is probably just reach me through social these days.
I love it. Yeah.
Or through Dave.
Yeah, that's right. You can reach out and I can put you guys in contact.
Thank you for having me. I always love sitting with you. It's so much fun.
I was so excited because when we get together, I always feel better. No matter how I feel. Even if I'm feeling great, I always feel better.
I love you
it's just so much fun. So much fun. That's the beauty about this stuff. So awesome, girlfriend. I love you. I love you guys, and I will see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Well, I guess see you.